Welcome to episode 2 of the RS podcast. I have no idea what my frame's like. I have a slight feeling that I'm chopping my head off, to be completely honest. I feel like I'm missing here. That's true. But yeah, it's been a little while since we've done one of these.
Yeah, been
Yeah,
we've been a busy bunch, haven't we? Uni and other things
Yeah.
amongst those. But yeah, it's been a fairly busy summer. I'm quite happy with myself doing something instead of just sitting about and waking up at like 1 in the afternoon. So it's been all right, really.
I suppose we should actually start a show, to be honest.
Yeah,
We've been rambling on
as beautiful as that intro was.
Yeah. We're already like 5 minutes into the recording on one of the cameras, so.
Right.
Let's begin with recently the Spider-Man Homecoming review went out. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man in a bit. So that was a very quick and dirty review, to be honest. It was like I just sat in front of the webcam and rambled about Spider-Man for, I think the actual length of footage was pushing on an hour.
Jesus.
And I cut it down to like 18 minutes or something.
Was
so.
that after the third time you watched it?
Yes. Cause I had like
fairly thorough then.
Yeah, I've seen that film 3 times now, and I'd honestly go see it again tomorrow if I was actually free to do so. It was fun.
Yeah, I've seen Baby Driver twice, just because it was really, really well made film. It was like you can see it being a classic film already, and just the editing was wonderful, and like it revolved a lot around the soundtrack. If you haven't watched it, then I won't spoil any of it for you. But the editing just like kind of goes along with like the drum beats and the music and stuff, which I thought they were going to just use as like a gimmick towards the start, but it was consistent throughout, and it had its own like cool little style and stuff like that. So you should definitely give that a watch. Highly recommend it. Definitely a cinema job as well, so you get the full effect. In terms of films, do you want to talk about film releases now, or?
I can do, yeah, we're on the topic. I saw War of the Planet of the Apes. What day are we on? What day is it today? Friday?
Yeah.
I saw it on Wednesday.
Alright, yeah, I saw it like a week or so. Well, I saw it the day it got released. I can't remember when that was. But yeah, what did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think the second one was my favourite out of all 3. I think it kind of went. So it was Dawn, then Rise, then War, wasn't it?
No, Rise then Dawn then.
Rise and right.
Yeah.
So it was Dawn for me, then probably War, then Rise.
Yeah. I think like they got in. Well, it's the same director who did Dawn, did War, so like it's a consistent style, which is why Rise for me just like stands out as being the poorer of the films. It's not a bad movie per se, but it's just.
I don't think it was a bad film. I just. Because the other 2 were obviously done by a different director and have a very different feel to them.
Yeah.
Like, it was a good setup film, but like I think Rise felt a lot like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. A lot of setup and not a lot of like substance. There's no substance to it. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I haven't seen Dawn since that came out, so I'm not really fresh-minded with that, but I remember really enjoying that. Especially, I can't remember, is it Toby Kebbell who plays Cobra? I really liked he's been one of my favourite bad guys in like more sci-fi films recently. But yeah, I really enjoyed, I think War's been my favourite just purely because it was like an old war film. I always forget the name of it, the Francis Ford Coppola film. But really famous film, I just never remember the name. It's got Marlon Brando in, and it's got that. It's gonna really annoy me.
No, I can't put 2 and 4 together. Though.
Anyway, that one, I'm sure you'll know when you're watching this. Had a lot of. I mean, they made reference to it. There was like graffiti on one of the walls and one of the shots that was like the film's title, Apocalypse Now. That's the one.
Yeah.
for God's sake. But it said apocalypse now, which is a nice little
yeah.
pun. So they're keeping with the humour, even though the world is in dismay. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I really enjoyed the like kind of just the harshness of like, I think it was like the halfway point or something when God, what is it? Caesar, that's it. Caesar gets imprisoned, and just like that kind of long range communication of hatred towards each other between him and Woody Harrelson's character, I thought was brilliant. And then I think one of my favourite scenes of the movie was, I think they were in Woody Harrelson's like little room place, him, Caesar, and I think two other characters.
Yeah, it was
and just
the gorilla, and it was the guy with the bow and arrow.
yeah, and just Woody Harrelson's like monologue where he's basically just justifying himself was like, I thought was really well needed, because you just see him as like a really horrible bastard who's just like, killed Caesar's family, and he's just being a dick, and he's reminiscent of like racism and stuff like that with like the shaved head and things like that. But he was like kind of justified in his ways, and
Yeah, I think Hollywood's finally realizing the need to make villains that are justified in their actions, because it's so much more impactful. Like, that's what I thought about Michael Keaton's Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming.
definitely.
I felt that I saw kind of similarities between Michael Keaton's Vulture and Woody Harrelson in that sense.
Yeah,
like, there was
'cause it was-
justification to their actions.
Yeah, it was like a kind of small time, like, well, it was like a working class kind of guy, like rising up against the man, which is kind of justified. And just that scene was really powerful, and I'm glad we see a villain that's not just, I want to rule the earth, or I want to kill all of these heroes, like, which I'm seeing a lot in recent films. But well, that probably bridges into, I didn't write it down there, but reminded me of the Justice League trailer. I thought it looks like good as just a comic book film, but anything far from that, I'm just like, I'm really not asked about it.
I have a feeling it's going to be very similar to DC's previous attempts. It's going to look amazing in the trailer and then have pretty much no substance and nothing there to it when you actually see the full film. Because they probably have shown us most of the plot at this point, because they did with Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
They showed like huge plot points, like fucking Doomsday and stuff. It's like,
yeah, that was just like a supercut of the film when that trailer came out. But I don't know if you thought so, but from the Justice League trailers, from like in comparison to all the other DC films, and I know it's like, who's the director again?
Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I know it's his style and stuff like that, but I thought the green screen was really obvious in the Justice League trailers. Just like, you can just tell everything's in just a small set in front of a blue screen or a green screen or whatever. And it's just like, again, I get it's the style. It's like, comic book panels and things like that. And obviously I really enjoyed like likes of Sin City and stuff like that. No, that wasn't him, but it was a similar style anyway.
I mean, Sin City knew it was doing it and wasn't trying to look real. It was intentionally pushing itself to not look like that. Whereas Zack Snyder, it just, he's looking like he's trying to make it real with half the budget.
Yeah, and it's like they want to give it this kind of grungy, kind of harsh, gritty style, but you can't really have that when you're making it look so like fantastical and stuff. Like, all the villains in the DC movies so far have just been like gods or something. Do you know what I mean? And like, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, talking about when Suicide Squad came out. I always thought the villain in that should have been just like, like a terrorist or like an arms dealer or something like that, because I think that would have matched where the Suicide Squad were at that point. Because it didn't seem right that the only one who was actually really capable of fighting a goddess was the one who could, breathe fire and shit. The other ones were just kind of like, can use guns really well, or like swing a bat, or like swing a sword.
Like, for something like that, it makes more. It's one of the things that annoys the hell out of me and Marvel suffers from it as well, but DC are terrible for it. Is when you've built some form of a multiverse and have all these different characters in this huge expanded universe, and don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly.
This huge goddess is trying to fuck shit up, basically. And you don't call upon Superman.
Yeah.
Because at that point, he was still fine.
I can't remember whether they addressed that in the film or not, like why they weren't calling upon, the
Because like
actual
it would
people
make
who had
sense. Oh, the
superpowers.
Flash, because we know he's been around in the universe for a while from the
Well, they
Justice
even had a
League
scene
trailers.
with the Flash in.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Like-
don't know. I feel like DC are just trying to like, again, a lot of people have said this before, but just like trying to match the same pace as Marvel, even though like they started halfway into what Marvel had already achieved, really, and it's just
Yeah.
like,
Well, the pushing out the Justice League way quicker than Marvel got to Avengers.
definitely. And I feel like a lot of the dialogue in the trailers and stuff, and like especially in Batman vs Superman, it's a lot of stuff relating to like, how aged they are and like how much shit's gone down, and like, I mean, I think
Shows those stories, for Christ's sake.
yeah, exactly. Like I know like all the actors you want to use are like a bit older and stuff, but like at least tell a bit more from like maybe like even shorts or whatever, just like showing more battles and like how they've got, I can't feel empathy for Batman being all aged and like broken if I don't know what he's experienced. Like
Getting one shot of a Robin costume that's been spray painted by the Joker isn't enough
Yeah,
to
exactly,
give us
I don't-
like a meaningful, like empathetic connection to him.
exactly. But again, we're talking. It's still like at the end of the day, it's still a comic book film. But I'm part of the view is that I genuinely believe that comic book films are important in that sense. They're not just entertainment. They can
I
tell
know.
a lot of because
Well,
people
Marvel
are very
do that.
attentive to them. So I think you can put little messages in there, but for some reason, just they don't want to put anything too out there. Really, I think the last thing that I seen from DC film that was too out there was Wonder Woman, and
I think Wonder Woman's the only one that I've seen so far that I thought they genuinely didn't do wrong.
yeah,
Like they did the character justice, they did a setup like an origin story justice, and they didn't make Wonder Woman like they made her what she needed to be, the strong female lead superhero. They didn't make her reliant on anybody but herself in a sense. And I think that's what it needed.
I'm really hoping that, just because, Justice League and Wonder Woman were pretty much filmed in parallel or very close to each other. And so obviously they haven't had that kind of, the retrospective knowledge from the success of Wonder Woman to be like, okay, this is how we'll portray the character in Justice League based on what went well in Wonder Woman. So I'm just worried that they're going to fall into the same traps in Justice League. But,
Because, Zack Snyder's directing it, and I've, in the past, made my views quite clear on Zack Snyder. He every time he's, in my opinion at least, and a lot of people's opinion, every time he's touched a comic book film, it hasn't done very well.
No.
He ruined the Watchmen for pretty much every fan.
Some of Watchmen I did like, but I'm not majorly into Watchmen, so I wouldn't.
But
know
if you compare it to that's the thing. You can see where Marvel gets its roots from and how it adjusts stories to fit the narrative they're trying to tell, and they're not just constantly trying to recreate panels from the comics.
Yeah.
When they do, they're not it's not in your face. It's like, oh my god, look, we're recreating this.
Yeah.
It's like just a subtle hint towards it.
I think it's more like I'll wait until I've got my water. You can hear me drink water. I think though, as you said there, though, because they don't, constantly try and recreate panels, when they do make a reference, it's iconic in the sense that there's that scene in Civil War when Ant-Man's on Hawkeye's arrow and he just that's such an iconic shot from a comic. And they didn't just recreate all of them. They did. It was like little tiny nods, and you just
It's like they make them fit. They don't Zack Snyder is just constantly shooting stuff in the Batman vs Superman trailers and stuff. There's the shot where he's basically at the top of a building, pointing out, looking down with the lightning going behind, and that was the front cover of The Dark Knight Rises or whatever. I think it's The Dark Knight Rises. Or The Dark Knight is one of the best Batman comics that ever came out, and it's just oh, let's put this shot in.
Yeah, just for the sake of it, just for
because we're nodding to the audience, even though every comic book fan's there going.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not doing the character justice. You're thinking that pleasing the fans is just making it look like a comic.
Yeah,
That's not how it
which
works.
I think again DC just haven't been able to grasp. Is
No.
there's a difference between pleasing the fans with like empty gestures and then actually doing service to the characters and the narrative and shit. But
Which, like, don't get me wrong, like, Marvel's by no means perfect.
oh yeah, totally.
Their films have some huge issues. Their lack of use of a proper score for a start.
Yeah, that bugs me a
And
bit.
I was watching a video on it. The Avengers theme, which, by the way, when we come on Spider-Man, I've got a really fun point about that. The Avengers theme, like, think of themes for, like, characters. So you can, if I say James Bond, you can think of the theme.
Yeah.
I say Indiana Jones, you can think of the theme. I say Pink Panther, you can think of the theme.
Yeah.
Can you actively, without really thinking, think of the Avengers theme?
No, not really, to be honest.
Do you know what that is? Because it's on none of the marketing. Proving Marvel knows what it's doing when it comes to like character development and doing fan service with certain moments from the comics, but making sense within their own narrative, which DC's obviously been struggling with, as we were saying. The moment in Spider-Man: Homecoming when Vulture's dropped the building on him, and he like pushes in, gets up. That is a homage to a fan favorite scene from the comics, where he basically does almost an identical thing. Basically, he's got basically a building essentially dropped on him, and he has to be like, "Come on, Spider-Man! Come on, Spider-Man!"
Be Spider-Man.
But like that entire section, like before he built up the willpower, because that's one of like Peter's main traits, is his just willpower to just keep pushing on and like do the right thing. Like, in this film, he's 15, and just the scared screams of a 15-year-old kid thinking he's going to die trapped down there.
Yeah, that was brutal, actually.
And that's why I think it was a brilliant idea for them to bring in an indie film director, rather than someone who's worked on big blockbusters loads.
Yeah.
Because he was willing to make calls like that are actually genuine character moments, and not just... There's Batman swimming through Manhattan!
Which is a good point, because I feel like what I appreciate that Marvel does is they do handpick directors that aren't just, you don't just, like, those directors that you just hire to do a job and that's it. They're genuine, like, ones that have done indie stuff before. Like, James Gunn, for instance, is one of my most favourite choices that they've done. I don't think that made sense, but... Yeah. And also, I think is it Taika Waititi or whatever he's called.
Taika Waititi.
I've not actually seen any of his other films, which I will do, but...
You need to see What We Do in the Shadows. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I've been told.
Oh, Jesus, it's a funny film. Like, Molly showed me it and I was just in sheer hysterics. It's so funny. I'm so excited for Thor Ragnarok because of it.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think out of the upcoming Marvel films... I mean, from this year's Marvel films, I think Ragnarok was the one I was looking forward to most anyway, but just that's gone up so much since the Comic-Con trailer was shown. Just looks brilliant. I love the dynamic between Thor and Hulk. I think they've nailed that. Just that chemistry, because you get glimpses of it in, like, even the first Avengers, and we didn't get much in Age of Ultron from what I remember, but... the chemistry is kind of like well established, and I like that Hulk's in this like weird, Hulk / Bruce Banner is in this weird like middle ground between how the character acts and stuff. He's like he's as Hulk, but he's got some form of like sentience and he can speak, and which I really like.
Pulled from the storyline Planet Hulk.
Yeah.
It's on Sakaar, which
I've seen the cartoon film. I just really appreciate that, and just the soundtrack sounds like it's going to be really cool. It had like a weird like synthy 80s vibe, like arcades and shit, which I thought was really cool.
I'm not going to seriously spoil anything here, but because I've seen the leaked footage from the Infinity War trailer that they showed at Comic-Con or D23 or whatever, whichever one it is they showed it at. But basically, you can tell from the feel of it, and it's kind of obvious to anybody that, if you think about it, they're getting like a lot of the feel of Thor is going to be very similar to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Because it's obvious that they're going to be the tying aspect there, because the Guardians are out in like space and through the galaxy and stuff,
Yeah.
and Thor does that. None of the other Marvel characters based on Earth do that, other than Thor.
Which I think is Ragnarok's probably one of the most important films in terms of bridging the films into Infinity War, because there will be parts on Earth, but it's also mostly like essentially a cosmic whatever they're called, universe thing film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, along with Guardians, and then you have the Earth stuff, and then you have the what's Doctor Strange is called. It's like the Mystic Universe or something like that.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like using Ragnarok essentially to bridge the gap between Earth and Guardians and stuff like that, which I think is really, really cool.
Because like I was worried about how they were going to connect the dots, because I was kind of anticipating at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that they would do something that would suggest that they're heading to Earth, or give some kind of context to make to put some connection there.
Wasn't Guardians 2, was that set in 2014 or 2015 or something? So I think they've got a bit of a way to go, haven't they?
I don't know. I've not because of Homecoming with the whole 8 years later thing.
Yeah, that really confused me.
I'm not quite entirely sure because obviously there's definitely some of the films that aren't set in the year they were released, and I think those are the Guardians, because people assumed that the Guardians are. But if you take the Guardians films out of the timeline and put them further earlier on in the timeline, and to kind of compress it down a bit, it ends up the math works a bit better. So I think that's what it is. Yeah. Because I'm guessing, Guardians Volume 2 is set much earlier than we are at now. So.
Yeah. I'm sure I heard James Gunn say in an interview that it's set like weeks or months or something after the first one, because he said something like the only thing that's majorly happened between Guardians and Guardians 2 is that Peter Quill's got a haircut or something like that, something stupid like that. So I'm guessing that they're just bridging into each other like really quickly, which I don't necessarily mind really. But yeah, I think just I'm really enjoying Thor, what we've seen. Loki seems to be just like being a fairly decent guy. And I know obviously it's still for him. He still wants to protect Asgard, because that's
now his
eventually where he wants to.
Well, I'm interested because he's in the poster for it, I think, if I remember rightly.
Infinity War.
No, for Ragnarok. What's Thor's dad called? Odin.
Yeah.
Because obviously at the end of Thor: The Dark World, it's shown that Loki's pretending to be Odin.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what they're going to do with that.
Where they're going with that, because.
Well, I think that's why we've seen them behind the scenes shots of Odin as a homeless man kind of thing. So I'm thinking that Loki's somehow managed to exile Odin to Earth, and maybe it's just a theory, but maybe just somehow wiped his memory or made him less powerful, so he's effectively just a human or whatever living on Earth, and that's maybe where the whole way it's going to bridge into Doctor Strange and stuff like that, because obviously he's going to meet him and stuff. But yeah, Ragnarok's going to be packed full of stuff that, and I'm glad we've only really seen one kind of aspect of it. We've seen just in and around the kind of battleground really of Ragnarok, which I mean,
we've seen a couple of flash clips of what's happening to Asgard, but they're not showing much what's happening there. And they're mainly showing what's going on in Sakaar, which I think is a good point, stuff to show, because obviously it's relevant to the plot, but it's not key plot points that will impact watching the film.
And I'm just wondering how much of the characters that we see in Ragnarok are going to be any part of Infinity War, because again, it's a theory or whatever, but there's apparently the theory that is it the Power Stone or the Soul Stone that's still
Soul Stone. The theory goes that it's in Heimdall.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because in Thor: The Dark World, he says he can see all the souls down there or something.
Yeah,
I'm
and
paraphrasing.
apparently the colours.
The colour matches and saying souls, it just feels really oddly specific. I watched the scene back and I was like, okay, why doesn't he say the people?
Yeah.
He says souls. It's oddly specific, so I'm thinking that's probably where it is.
Yeah.
But
so I'm hoping that.
But it could also be in Adam Warlock.
Oh yeah. That's
because in the comics he fuses with the Soul Stone.
Oh right. Apparently though, I've heard from James Gunn that we're not going to see Adam Warlock till Guardians 3.
Right. Okay.
Just because they don't want to confuse it too much. Which is
fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So then again, it's probably in Heimdall. It's gonna be interesting because based on what we're seeing in Thor, it looks like Hela is gonna have a huge part in Infinity War. Because it looks like because in the Marvel comics, you have Hela, who's obviously from the Norse mythology and their interpretation of it that they have in the comics, and she's the god of death, or the goddess of death for Asgard, if you like, and for them. But you've got actual death, as in the Grim Reaper type person in the comics, who's a female who actually sleeps with Deadpool on a regular occurrence. That's the thing. Those sleep together regularly because he's accidentally died a few times, but because of his regeneration comes back. But since there's no setup for that, because Thanos is in love with death.
Yeah.
Because if you pull it from Greek mythology, Thanos is actually the person who stands by the doors of death. In Tartarus in Greek mythology, so they're pulled from that. So Thanos is in love with death. But since they're not setting up anything for death, and she's a huge kind of motivation for Thanos, it looks like they're basically combining Hela and death into one character.
Yeah, which I don't
have an issue with. I think that can work.
Well, especially in the trailer, I'm pretty sure she says, I'm probably paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure she says something along the lines of I'm the goddess of death, and then she says something like, "What to Thor? What are you the god of?" or something like that. Which I thought was such a cool
that theory, again, this is purely theoretical, I have no evidence on this, but the theory going around is because obviously she broke Mjolnir.
Yeah.
But he's still the god of thunder and lightning.
It's in him, it's not.
He's channeling Mjolnir in that.
Yeah.
Through himself.
That's so cool.
Because Thor's reaching his fullest potential, as most of the characters are starting to. This bit I'm going to cut out. You've seen the Infinity War footage, haven't you?
Yeah.
The bit where Peter Parker's on the bus and he's fucking
yeah.
That gave me chills. I'm so excited he's actually
your
got
sense.
Yeah, I was like, he's got spider sense. Fuck yes! Oh, I was so excited about that.
I think that even from the trailer, they've given the characters a fair share of time, which I'm kind of like.
You know the bit where, because obviously he's in the Iron Spider suit that we saw at the end of Homecoming, which I'm so fucking happy we're gonna see that, because I'm really excited to see the Iron Spider suit, because that's the closest one. Because in the comics it wasn't people loved it, but it didn't look very good.
Yeah.
And this looks like a really good interpretation of it, but the bit where he's lying down, he's got the mask off. It's similar to the bit in Civil War where he's talking to Tony, and Tony's like, "Just chill out, you're a kid." He doesn't call him Mr. Stark. He calls him Tony.
Yeah.
Which I was like...
I'm so... Even just when you said that, I'm getting chills just thinking about what the fuck is going to happen. Because doesn't he say something like, "I'm so sorry, Tony, I can't do it," or something along those lines?
Something along those lines, I'm just like...
Fucking hell. And again, this is definitely speculation, but towards the end of the trailer and a few of the shots, it's literally just Thanos and Tony kind of facing off. So I think he's going to be the last one to, face him kind of thing. Oh, God, I'm so excited. Because I remember it's my favourite part of Age of Ultron when he has that kind of vision of, all of them kind of piled up. Dead. Oh, God. I'm so excited for that film.
And I've seen some of the behind the scenes photos that have been leaked. It looks like they're doing an interpretation on Tony's spacesuit that he got, because in the comics he spent a bit of time with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He actually became a member for a little bit in the comics and had a really fucking cool suit. But it looks like they're doing an interpretation on that, mixing it with what suits we've seen, and then basically because it's definitely a spacesuit because it's so much bulkier. It's clearly got stuff in there to be able to have full life support systems while he's in space, rather than just minimal ones while he's jetting around Earth. It's clearly like bigger and bulkier and designed for working off Earth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we should probably get back to the stuff we can actually talk about on the podcast.
Well, I guess we can still talk about even just the Infinity War poster, really, because I don't think we should talk about the trailer just purely because, like, I don't know, it's like leaked. It's
leaked. I don't really want to.
Plus, and plus, like, it's not a good representation of what we're actually going to see, really, because it's filmed from like someone sat down there and the screen's there or whatever. So yeah, but in terms of the poster, what the thing I'm most interested in is the fact that, like, well, you know, like Captain America, well, Steve has got like a beard now, and is, from what we see of his suit, it's a lot different. So I think that he's gonna like be Nomad or something in that, which is basically who he becomes after Civil War in the comics. I think from what I know.
Also, well, certainly for a portion of the film, I reckon we're going to see Marvel's famous. He's wearing a hat and a jacket.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to see that at some stage, before he takes up the role of actually fighting.
I'm just really excited to see what they do with Steve, because he's like one of my favourite characters in the whole thing. Post Winter Soldier, because I wasn't a major fan of the first Avenger, really.
I think, and I mentioned this briefly, I think I might have cut it out of my Homecoming review, but Phase 1 was good at kind of showing us these characters and kind of showing where they were before they were Avengers and when they were just these, like, normal people who got their powers. It was a good setup. This is who they are. But Phase 2 really started a shift out of that, as like with, you know, Iron Man 2 was a fluff piece, but Iron Man 3 showed like some real character development for Tony, and obviously coming in Civil War, and now with Homecoming, seeing how he works with Peter Parker. Like, we can see that we're seeing Steve Rogers become gradually less patriotic and doesn't agree, and he's not America. Yeah. He's like, it was moving from that. You know, Phase 1 was a good setup. Certainly better setup than DC's been doing. Definitely. But I think Phase 3 has seriously impressed me. Because the character development, especially if you compare them to Phase 1, is huge.
Yeah, definitely.
The stories, because that's the thing, they're managing to pack some quite complex and not like typical Hollywood storylines and like context and narrative pieces into Hollywood blockbusters, which I think is really impressive that they're actually managing to put these things that you don't normally see, even if they're just underlying themes and stuff, they're managing to put those into your general Hollywood blockbuster that anybody can go see. So it's almost like subliminal messaging.
Yeah. I think they're definitely getting darker by the phase. I think the first phase, you know, has its dark points, but it was very much just establishing the kind of characteristics of an MCU film, which is kind of like a bit brighter, comedy orientated, things like that. Then Phase 2, I think it took a bit of a turn, especially with the likes of Winter Soldier and I didn't really like it, but The Dark World essentially did the same thing as well. What else was... I don't know if it was Comic-Con or not, but there's some new Rick and Morty stuff shown as well. Which, have you seen any of the new stuff?
Any Rick and Morty.
Right. They're showing some kind of behind the scenes for the next episode, which is going to have like a kind of Mad Max aesthetic kind of thing, which I think looks really cool. And they've been releasing like little promos online that have been from a minute to 5 seconds long. So yeah, you should watch a few of them. But I'm really excited for the new Rick and Morty, which I think starts, well, whilst we're recording this, starts in like 3 days, 4 days maybe.
It does, yeah. It's the 31st, isn't it?
And apparently it's coming on Netflix 8 days after each episode.
Right, okay.
So, which isn't too bad, because the only thing with me is like, well, I think it was you as well, we started watching it when season 1 and season 2 are already out
Yeah.
and on Netflix, so we could just binge watch it all. And it's been harsh to try and wait for season 3 when we've just been used to like being able to watch them all in one sitting, maybe. There's new Stranger Things trailer as well.
Yes, I did see some clips from that.
Looks really, really good, but the only thing with me is like, did you watch the first season?
Yeah.
I felt like the first season was a complete story in itself, and like I know there's like a little bit with Will, like kind of it is Will, isn't it? Seeing the other place, I can't remember what the hell they call it in it. Is it the Upside Down place?
Yeah.
Something like that. And I like that they've made reference to that in the new one, and I'm just thinking, I really hope they finish the story with this one, because I think it'll probably overstay its welcome if they don't change enough of it. Or I would like to see them do a different era with the same kind of lore, but like recreate like a 70s film or a 90s film or something, but with the same like kind of lore, like the Upside Down place and all that shit, which I think would be really cool, because I think they did do the 80s thing value, but I'm just like, I'm a bit bored of 80s nostalgia right now in like every film or TV show that I've seen recently.
Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
and then we got obviously Stranger Things. We got Volume 2. Like, there's a lot of big stuff that's had that vibe. And
Which honestly, I don't mind. I appreciate the aesthetic.
Not an issue, but like, you've got to. It ends up being a point. It's like horror films. They just end up getting repetitive. So it just ends up being basically, oh, look at this neon text. We're so 80s.
Yeah, and just or something like that, just like playing constantly. Yeah,
it does get overdone.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for that, I guess. I can't remember what else was shown at Comic-Con. I think that was pretty much it. There was that I really cared about. Is there anything else? It's going to be the clunkiest bridge towards it, but do you want me to talk about... I won't go into too much detail, but I'll talk about Silence.
Yeah.
So, we're currently working on, the pre-production for it's kind of like a sci-fi. It's not really, because of the...
Like sci-fi...
It's sci-fi in its like kind of characteristics, but it's not got any sci-fi actual characters in or whatever, but... this one called Silence in the Coppice, if I'm saying it right, Coppice. I've never actually seen the word until writing
Silence
it.
in the Coppice.
Yeah, Sarah in it. Sarah did the kind of manuscript for it, and I've just been using that to kind of write a script, which I'm nearly finished with, which will be... Are we filming that soon?
Yes.
Not next week. We're probably going to do 1 or 2 filming days the following, and then I'm away for a week, and then probably 1 or 2 more filming days a week after that.
So
Right. Don't really need much filming.
Yeah. I think it's in terms of like the locations and
me and Sarah worked out, and we should basically be able to get away with an evening per location almost.
Yeah.
With like the potential for pickups.
Yeah.
Like afterwards.
I think the only tasking thing is going to be getting props and costumes and stuff. Which
costume wise, we don't need. The only thing
we might
we
need the alien costumes.
It's not costumes, just masks.
Okay, well, that's what I meant, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of just writing that script after having been taught a kind of cut down version of like the beginnings of script writing in my uni course, it's been really interesting to do, just from the knowledge I've gained from that, and just especially dialogue focus is like not trying to make things too obvious, using a lot of subtext and things like that. And I'll talk about that, and I think we're going to be doing like filmmaking masterclasses soon.
Yes, we are.
And in terms of like what I'll talk about, would be a lot of like screenplay writing and things like that, just because that's what I'm learning right now and stuff, and what I want to do. And so, and do you want to talk about more of the filmmaking masterclass?
We don't really have kind of a set thing we're going to be discussing next week properly. But, like, basically we're going to be putting together some fairly in-depth stuff. And it's like, we say a masterclass, it's basically an in-depth in how we do it and what we've learned how to do based on what a lot of other people tend to do as well. But, like, it is our own way of doing it. But
More like subjective.
Yeah. Like, some of it's going to be objective, obviously. Like, there's certain things that there's only one way of doing certain things. Like, there's only one way to set a camera, in a sense. Like, there's always same things when it comes to that. It's just how you set the camera for the thing you're doing is the subjective part. But, as I say, it's going to be just going in depth into, like, the filmmaking process, and like, we've done smaller tutorial things in the past, but this is like what I want to try and do, like much higher production value, more in depth stuff for this. Basically.
Yeah. We'll all kind of be involved with that and stuff. Some episodes, I'll kind of be like the subject or whatever. Like that, maybe you'll be filming like to test the lighting angles out and shit like that, and then in some I'll be like teaching stuff, and then other people will be involved hopefully.
Yeah.
Just kind of like it is kind of essentially a way to kind of sum up where RS is at.
Yeah.
In the sense now,
Of like
in terms of the team and what
team and ability
we've got, and
yeah,
what we've learned and things like that. So it works as like an update, and I can't remember how often we said we were doing that. We haven't got much detail in terms of like when we're doing it, but like, we've been spitballing ideas. So
we're going to sit down and try and get like a proper plan in place next week, and then in among filming Silence in the Coppice, we'll shoot some of those as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know why I didn't write it down, but I was thinking start doing some like kind of vlogs soon, if you want, just in places. What I wanted to do was, because we've been writing ideas for Don't Fade, I wanted to actually like kind of go to some of the villages that we've been basing the kind of the setting on, like a kind of rural British village that's got a low population and may have some ghost stories behind it. So maybe vlog some of that walking amongst the settings, and maybe going to find spooky places in the woods, or like under bridges and churches and things like that, which I think would be interesting to do. I'm not much of a believer myself, but I just like the kind of the vibe of it. I'm thinking of going like doing some ghost hunting things in like those kind of places. So just to kind of do a bit more research on it and stuff. Because one of the characters is one of those kind of people who believe in that sort of thing, like conspiracy theorists, and believes in the supernatural and stuff. So getting the mindset of these characters so I can write them. Well, we can write them better and stuff. But hopefully that helps with Don't Fade, because that's going to be probably one of our most ambitious projects, which we still don't have a set date we're filming, but hopefully it'll be in the next few years, which will be fun, because we're hoping to get it to be around like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Well, probably not an hour, but
between 30 and an hour,
yeah. So hopefully
I don't want it to go over an hour, because I don't want it to touch feature length. But I want to say an hour max, so that we keep it below feature length, because I just don't think it needs to be feature length.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. That's why we've structured it. It doesn't really need to be. But that's going to be pretty exciting. Just every time I talk about it, I get excited about that. I sound obviously the most monotone person ever, but still. We're doing, is it next week? 2nd of August, isn't it? We're going to...
Yeah, next week on Wednesday. So when this comes out, if I manage to get it edited, it'll be Monday. But you'll know watching this if I actually manage to get this out on Monday the 31st.
Yeah, I do realise like a lot of them are saying like next week or the next, like, do you know what I mean? But whenever this comes out, it probably won't be next week. It'll be like the week before or something.
Yeah, as I say, I'm aiming to get this out for Monday the 31st. You guys watching this will know if I actually manage to achieve that, because I'm quite busy this weekend, but I will attempt to getting it out for then. If not, it will certainly be the week of the 31st. On Wednesday the 2nd, we're going to Go Ape, which should be fun.
I don't know much about it myself, but we'll maybe try and get some footage. I don't know, maybe photos.
I will try and get some stuff. But the problem is, like...
It's basically just a massive assault course, isn't it?
In the trees, yeah. You're like... Anyway, I don't know. You're certainly not higher than this house, but like you're still like a substantial height up, and they don't particularly like you getting your phone out of your pocket and stuff. But they're not. There isn't like someone constantly there being like, do this, do this. Like you get a training session for like I don't know half an hour or so at the beginning, and then they do just patrol the woods below you as you're walking or as you're going across.
But we'll definitely talk about it. You know, our brains will still be recording the event, so we'll definitely talk about it after. In probably the next podcast, whenever that gets filmed.
Hopefully next week. I want to do it next week because I want to try and
make it more consistent.
Yeah. The only other thing is, some point in the next 2 weeks, certainly before I go away, in the middle of August, the last review that I've got in the bag for now of the camera cage that I use for my Panasonic GH4 is going to be out. But apart from that, that's everything that's kind of on the table at the moment.
Yeah, we're pretty much in a bridging point between projects right now, aren't we? So more things to talk about, but less actual like detail to go in really. But that's essentially what we're going to talk about really. How you want to outro the video?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that just sums up this podcast. I don't think there's anything else we really wanted to cover, so thank you guys for watching. I've been Matthew Shute.
I'm Lewis Evans.
Thank you for watching.